get money to renovate a park, and you're being told, no, this isn't a good use of funds, and yet a multi-billion-dollar corporation gets $15 million to do this. Our members were rightfully upset. So we did this action last month, and we had this big golden toilet, which we thought symbolized just the excess and the greed of a company like CME, and we marched
and the crapola.
Yes. And so we marched to the headquarters and we presented. We had a big bow on it. It was very nice. We went into the lobby and we asked to speak to Chairman Duffy, Terry Duffy. He's the chair of the CME, and he wasn't there. They spend a lot of time in Florida in the winter, these bankers, so he wasn't there. But we presented the toilet and we said, there you got your fancy bathroom fixtures. Please give us our money back. And the following week, they, in an unprecedented move, announced that they would be giving back or relinquishing their claim to this $15 million in TIF that they were awarded. So I think...
Can I say thank you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thanks to our wonderful coalition members. I mean, this really was... We had Shawnee Smith, who's an activist with Soul, Southsiders Organizing for Unity and Liberation, and she was wonderful, and she kind of did the presentation. And so I think, again, this is just an issue of money going to the wrong places. I mean, we have neighborhoods
at the wrong
in need.
Time.
That's right. At a time when we have a huge budget deficit, when we're slashing funding to programs all across the city,
right.
How can you justify giving the richest company in the city our tax money to renovate its bathrooms?
Right.
So it was a successful action.
Yeah, that's very successful. That's terrific.
Let's go back to the request for the city to give equal money, whatever they spend on the NATO meeting, NATO summit, to give equal amounts back to Chicago's communities. How are you pursuing that? What's the pressure on the city, the publicity campaign, the organizing among organizations? Tell us a little bit more about that, because I really think that it's as you pointed out, that people really get this, that okay, if you're going to do this, what about this? At a time when we're all in need. So let's pursue that a little bit.
Well, that's exactly what we're planning. So we delivered the letter to the mayor last week, calling for the creation of this fund. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I think the best outcome is that no summit is held here, that we don't have the G8 or NATO. It's really going to
have NATO though.
We will, exactly. And from what the city's saying, it's going to cost just as much. The security issues are going to be the same. The disruptions are going to be the same. So even though we're down to one summit, it's still taking the same toll on the city. So we're working with our...
As a business owner, I don't think that's very responsible budgeting. It's cut in half from 4 days to 2. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Just onward.
Well, and it's funny too, because again, they're saying that they haven't done an official cost analysis of this, and yet they're saying, but don't worry, it's going to be great for the city.
Is irresponsible business running.
That's right. So now we're working. So we're a couple months out away from the summit. So we're working with we have a very broad coalition. So we're working to figure out what makes the most sense for all of us going forward. But our direct actions have been very successful when we were talking about with the CME, when we've asked, when we've kind of highlighted these issues of corporate welfare and of corporate responsibility, we've actually gotten some results. Mm-hmm. So I think it might be a matter of continuing those kinds of those actions and escalating those kinds of actions and working together as a coalition.
Okay, the fellow who was on before you, Tom Clark of the Community Media Workshop, his whole reason for being is to get coverage of community efforts as opposed to the sort of reporting that now happens as a result of there not being too many actual reporters. How do you get stand-ups, events, and policies covered? And how successful or not have you been?
Well, we've been very successful. We have... when thinking back, for example, to our action in October, I mean, that was covered by the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. It got international coverage. That was really, but it's local reporters like Tom and other local bloggers and that have really been paying attention to our work, really have given us great coverage, and so it's kind of a blend. I mean, it's always nice to see your jobs proposal covered in the Wall Street Journal, but at the same time, it's really the local coverage and the local news that, and they have been paying attention. When we have actions, we get news cameras out there and folks are reporting on it. So, and I think it's simply because it really is, we really are, it's of interest. This is of interest to 99% of Chicagoans, the kind of work we're doing.
Cool. Michael, you're just sitting back there. You're relaxing.
I'm soaking up the information.
Do you have another question for Elizabeth?
Well, I guess I would just ask sort of a personal question. You're a policy analyst. Now, how did you decide to become a policy analyst? You came out of Columbus, Ohio. Did you grow up in Ohio?
Yes.
And how do you like living in Chicago, and how long have you been here?
I love it. I really, really love Chicago. It's always nice to be in the Midwest.
Kind of the capital of the Midwest.
It is, and it's the logical place where people from Ohio.
Oh, the Heartland.
Yeah, it is. It is the Heartland. So to become a policy analyst, I'm sure there are many, many routes, but I used to work for organized labor. I did research for a labor union. Then I went to grad school and got my master's in sociology, and then heard about this wonderful opportunity and the good work that Stand Up Chicago was doing, so I was lucky that
How long has Stand Up Chicago been around?
I think since last spring, so about a year, we started planning things out, and then we had a big action in June that was kind of the kickoff. That's again when we had thousands of folks downtown filling the streets. So.
And to find out more about Stand Up Chicago, people would go to
standupchicago.org, or they can visit us on Facebook and Twitter.
Cool. Well, Elizabeth, we may see you again.
That would be wonderful.
You will have to report back on winning us more money back from the 1%.
Yes, we will.
And thank you for doing it thus far.
Thank you.
Keep up your efforts. Elizabeth Parisian from Stand Up Chicago. I'm going to shoot a surprise towards Mary. We're going to switch places and let Mary Wozniak come up here. Mary Peyton Wozniak. Come on up, Mary. We've got a brand new show. Let's hear it for Elizabeth and Stand Up Chicago. Alrighty. While Mary takes the stage, which is, a generous thing to call this little patch of wood we're sitting on, we have, looks like to be about 30 or 40 things hanging on the wall as of yesterday. Mary, usually you're behind the camera.
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
So this is an odd position to be in right here.
Yeah,
close to that microphone.
Yeah, a little close.
All right, so you are the person who took these photographs. This is the newest exhibit at the Heartland. Tell us a little bit about what you got up here on the wall.
Well, my husband, Paul, and I, last year, before we were married, we just got married this past July, but last year we went up to Madison and took part in the protests that were going on. Even though we were living down here, we were traveling up there. And I was so moved by the energy of these people and the support, not just of the local people in Wisconsin, but the people from Illinois up there reaching out and protesting with them.
Right. And they were protesting, of course, the now infamous Scott Walker.
Scott Walker, yes, and his end to collective bargaining and trying to burn out the unions.
Right.
And so I had my camera with me. I love to take pictures. And I approached people and asked them to, can I take your picture? And nobody protests like Wisconsin. These people had, costumes on and all handmade signs. And they're very creative, from Where's Waldo costumes to, I have many more pictures at home, hundreds more at home, some of them in like Winnie the Pooh costumes. And
the photos are in color. I mean, it's unique for our walls because normally we have either photo or other medium, like the paintings we just took down. These are literally sort of journalistic snaps of folks holding their
all
signs.
All framed in gorgeous golden brown.
Yeah, really, all framed. You did a lot of work.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Well, and when
as well as posters.
When I approached people and asked them, can I take your picture, many of them said, oh, don't you want more than that? No, that's good. But I approached, now I'm a teacher, so I'm a union member here in Illinois, and approached a group of teachers and, took their picture. And they asked me who I was taking the pictures for. I said, for me. And they asked me what I did for a living. I said, actually, I'm a teacher in Illinois. And two of them started crying and hugging me. Oh, thank you for supporting us, and we'll be there when this happens to you. It's,
Yikes.
I think that Wisconsin started all this.
Yeah.
It was a real turning point, and it changed the debate a lot.
Yes.
That and the, Occupy movement, and things have shifted a little bit. I think we all are pretty grateful, but we have a lot of work ahead of us.
Yes. And I think for most of us, we view Wisconsin as people that are, living our vacation life. And if these people can put their lives aside and day after day after day bombard that Capitol, how could we, stand by and not stand up for what we feel is right?
One of my favorite posters that you've got in a picture is a guy holding a poster that says, Fox News will lie about this.
Yes.
It was perfect. We're going to run out of time, but this is going to be up for a while, the show, your show. But where does it stand now? Is there a recall vote in our future, or what's going on?
They needed a certain amount of signatures to recall him, and they've gotten double the amount of signatures that they needed. And of course, all that is in the making. And in the meantime, Walker continues.
I know.
He continues
it's
cutting people's rights. So it's just a piece of what's to come for many of us. I think that's the sad
we want
aspect.
to thank you for coming on, and we always want to thank you for the great work you do. I want to point out that Paul Wozniak, I know you guys were childhood sweethearts. You probably brought him back he was living up in Green Bay doing environmental work.
Yeah, I kidnapped him and brought him back to Chicago.
Good.
That's where he ought to be.
So we want to thank Paul and Mary Wozniak. We want to thank Angel Herrera. We want to thank Eli Sloan downtown. We want to thank Lisa Smith, Dan Kugler, Laura Herman. We want to thank everybody who makes this show possible. And we want to say, do good in the world and be grateful. The world needs all the good work that you do. All power to the people. Over and out. Cool, right on the mic.
You're listening to 88.7 WLUW, Chicago Sound Alliance, broadcasting from the campus of Loyola University.
Once again, it's gospel time.